Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan, and the topic of this 10-minute moan is an LGBT charity that's heavily funded by the SNP government and have access to school kids across Scotland, and how they feel that puberty blockers are wonderful despite suggestions to the contrary from many medical professionals. Before I start, people ask me often, how can we support the channel? Well, you can subscribe, you can even become a member, but the easiest thing for you to do is click the thumbs up button on each video, and it'll help the reach of each video. So thanks for that. So the story that I'm about to read out has been covered in several newspapers this afternoon, and I'm using the Daily Express one, but the same story's been replicated all over the place. And their headline is, LGBT youth charity funded by the SNP government promotes puberty blockers as a wonderful despite the pause. Concerns have been raised among the impact taxpayer-funded charity LGBT Youth Scotland is having in Scottish schools, with the organisation now calling for NHS Scotland to U-turn on its decision to pause puberty blockers. An LGBT youth charity which has been handed substantial funding by the Scottish Government has proclaimed puberty blockers as wonderful and called on clinicians to change their mind about pausing the use of them in Scotland. LGBT Youth Scotland also wants kids to have autonomy to decide whether to take them or not. So not only do they want them to be available, they want children under 18 to make a decision, and autonomy in making the decision, which means their parents don't have any role to play in this. These people, I would suggest, are deranged. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde and NHS Lothian announced last week that the drugs would not be given out north of the border until the CAS review is analysed. It was a decision which caused outcry amongst grassroots Scottish Green members, who were also part of an LGBT group called the Rainbow Greens, and a protest was held. Dr Hilary Cass found that there was little evidence that puberty blockers should be used and advocated for a more holistic care for trans kids and teenagers, while also recommending that they are also treated for mental disorders at the same time. But LGBT Scotland denounced the findings. You know best, eh? The taxpayer-funded charity said it believed the decision to pause the treatment at Glasgow's Sandiford Clinic was to the detriment of trans young people. It issued a statement from its Trans Right Youth Commission, which claimed the bodily autonomy of children should be respected. What I find a bit bizarre is these people have got access to children. They already have pronoun days and all that in schools across Scotland that are delivered by these people. So they have access to the children. They want to put ideas into children's heads, obviously. That's what you do when you teach people. And they want that information to be given to kids, and kids to make decisions about their gender without having any need or recourse to discuss it with their parents. I find that type of behaviour, frankly, odd, and that's the nicest way I can describe it. They added, we would like to be clear about the wonderful impacts that accessing gender-affirming care can have. Gender-affirming care is about our right to do what we want with our own body. No, it's about what children would like. Strange use of words. Maybe just didn't realise you were actually speaking the truth there. It is about our right. So you believe it's your right to decide what happens with kids. And that's interesting. It is freedom. We deeply urge Sandiford to reconsider. The charity made these comments despite Dr Cass finding that there were possible risks for the drugs, such as infertility and damage to brain function and growth. But this mob will know best, eh? Humza Yousaf has rejected calls to shut down the Sandiford after it was described as the tartan Tavistock, after the London clinic, which offered gender-affirming care to children, was shut down after becoming embroiled in scandal. There are huge waiting lists for the Glasgow clinic. I am not surprised if this mob, LGBT Youth Scotland, have access to every school child in Scotland, planting idiotic ideas into people's heads and then wondering how there's now suddenly a bigger queue forming at the Sandiford clinic. The Scottish Government has been blasted for inaction over its response to Cass Review, with Public Health Minister Jenny Minto only announcing another focus group and was accused of doing this just to appease the angry Greens. She also repeatedly mentioned that it was an English report. We previously told how the SNP Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth dismissed concerns about the activities of LGBT Youth Scotland in schools after it was accused of indoctrinating pupils through its scheme, which includes kids becoming LGBT champions. She said this helped create inclusive environments. Scottish Tory Deputy Leader Megan Gallagher has campaigned for the Cass Review to be analysed thoroughly and implemented, and said that parents had been outraged by some of the materials published by the charity, citing the experience of a parent who claimed her daughter had been radicalised by trans ideology. The child began living as a boy with the decision kept from the parents by the school, but she reverted back to her birth sex after being sent to a private school in England. Ms Gallagher said LGBT Youth Scotland's ideological and dogmatic response to the Cass Review sums up why many are extremely concerned about their continued influence. And I would like to add me to this amount of people. Many are extremely concerned and about their continued influence. I think it is frightening that A, this group exists, B, they are funded, and I believe solely by the Scottish Government, and C, they have access to children, where I tend to agree with the Deputy Scottish Tory leader Megan Gallagher, who feels they are who talks about the story of someone being radicalised, their daughter being radicalised by their trans ideology. You could go into schools with anything. You could get into schools, depending on what age you spoke to the people, and have them believe it was acceptable to be called a unicorn and pee in the corner if it was sold to them in such a delightful, happy, clappy way. That doesn't mean it is right. And I do believe there will be kids at schools who are transgender, genuinely transgender, who will have gender dysphoria. But what we're doing now is we're encapsulating every child into going, should I be a wee boy? Should I be a wee girl? Kids who would never have had that thought in their life. And now, these kids, I believe, as also, and I agree with the Tories on this one, being indoctrinated into a lifestyle, which isn't always about trans, also with the LGB stuff as well, that they'll be indoctrinated into, and felt, well, that's, it should be acceptable to have gay and lesbian people in your class. Nobody's suggesting otherwise. But if you make it so attractive to kids, you might have some who have never had a gay thought in their mind to think, well, I'll give that a wee go. And that's not your job. And there is a school of thought that believes that there are people out there who want to turn non-gay people gay and non-trans people trans. And this mob, the LGBT Youth Scotland mob, sound like one of them. They are not supporting trans people. They're indoctrinating people to become trans. That is a totally separate issue. If there are trans people in our schools, which I believe they are genuine trans people in our schools, then they deserve all the support they can get. That is not the problem here. The problem is that others will be led to believe that these are acceptable choices. Being trans shouldn't be a decision you make. Being trans should be something that you either are or you're not. But when indoctrinating children into this, you will get a number who will now consider being trans when this would never have been a thought that would occur to them in their whole life. Before we had LGBT Youth Scotland, there were been trans people in schools across the country, but less than 0.5% of people. Okay? But now that won't be on the rise. And it's not about these people that try to stop pretending. I've had enough of this pretense that they're there purely to support trans people. And I now, after months of deliberation, I've came to the decision that there are people there who are trying to convert people to be trans, which is a completely different notion than being put into schools to support trans. So you can bet your bottom dollar that now this LGBT Youth Scotland, who come onto my radar last week, will remain under my radar, or remain on my radar, and I'm going to do some digging into them, because I don't believe you are doing what you say on the tin. Okay, so if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumb. Enjoyed the video. I don't think anybody could enjoy this video. It's a disgusting topic. But if you felt it was worthwhile, that's maybe a better way of putting it, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And as long as you're not LGBT Youth Scotland or anybody that buys into this nonsense, everybody else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.